Okay, we're continuing with the book Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, P. Rogers, in alphabetical order. And again, a lot of these quotes are not necessarily in the book. I'm doing like 5,000 pages of quotes with my daily videos. The book's only about 700, 800 pages, something like that. But it's the best stuff. Okay. Christopher Matthews. If Christianity were to begin today, the symbol would be the electrical chair. He's a religious professor, teaches about St. Augustine. Okay, now Tucker Max, one of the main guys today. He went from a blog to a bestseller. He sort of hit the internet right at the best time, early in the beginning, around 2002, before people realized how big it was going to be. And you know what I like about the guy? He's pretty honest. He tells the truth. He's sort of like somebody you'd be friends with in high school. A guy who was kind of fun, tells a lot of stories, does funny stuff, gets drunk, and then tells you the jokes about, what he did. And I hung around a bunch of athletes, and that's what athletes are like. Go to parties, get drunk, and then something funny happens, and they'll tell the story about, the girl they liked or whatever. Anyways, so he became really popular writing these books, telling funny stories from his personal life. And I think part of what he got onto was most of the people who control publishing companies, they're not people you would like. They're sort of snooty, but they're not really smart. They're just sort of snooty. They're very, this hand, the left. And, they make everything suck, okay? They're atheists. They don't believe in God. They just sort of have a pompous, lightweight attitude. And the relevance being that they control most of publishing. And that's why when you go to a bookstore, most of the books stink. And you look at the news book and they stink. And you're like, why do all these books stink? And the reason they stink is because the publishing companies stink. All right? And the publishing company, they kind of control distribution. And if they're not in agreement with the store and the publishing company, the book won't get published. All right? I'm one to talk a little bit sour grapes, but for example, I offered to publish a book for Ben Bella, and they're a successful publishing company, but they will not take a risk on somebody who's too controversial like me. Okay, they'll take a risk on somebody who's very lefty because they know they'll have no problem getting that into the stores. But somebody who's kind of conservative, that's risky for them. Okay, unless you've got a giant platform. All right, so anyways, here's what Tucker Max has to say. He says, here's one thing about being honest. All the liars hate you for it. If you have the courage to be honest, even a little bit, all of those people are going to hate you because their lie is reflected in your honesty. Okay, when I tell you what a joke olive oil is and I show you all the papers, then people who are selling olive oil, they're not going to like me. That's just how it's going to be. But in the long run, if you're going to be good, you have to accept the fact people hate you for telling the truth. And Oscar Wilde, he said, wasn't kidding when he said, if you want to tell people the truth, you have to make them laugh or they will kill you. And what they do nowadays is instead of just beating you up or killing you, they just shadow ban you. And all the corporate money goes in another direction. So, in a sense, that's basically kind of your choice. Either be largely ignored or, be beaten and attacked and discredited and tarred and feathered. It's the truth is not a popular thing with big money. Okay, Tucker Max continues. Failure either ruins you or it turns you into the man you can become. Yeah, that's why it's good to have that sense of destiny, that life has meaning, you're on a mission or something, because you're going to be smacked down, you're going to be hated, you're going to be screwed over, betrayed. And unless you feel very strongly that this is important and you could do it, and you should do it, and it's right and it's meaningful and it's your purpose, you're not going to make it. It's just a fact, okay? So you got to believe it in your gut. That will energize you, to give you the energy to do whatever task you've set yourself on. Okay, he continues. Ladies, you may not realize this, understand this, or even believe this, but everything we do is ultimately for you. Men don't do anything, like create art, build businesses, donate to charity, invent things, or do anything noteworthy for any reason other than to impress women, and thus to get them to have sex with us. If women didn't exist, we'd still be naked, grunting apes living in caves. In a very real way, pussy is the key to human civilization. You don't have to like it, but it's a fact. And if you understand it, you understand men. Okay, so I think there's some truth in that. We do stuff to impress women, but we also do stuff to impress ourselves, to impress our friends, to impress, not necessarily impress, but to please God. Okay, and you're not going to get laid more than once, okay? I never cheated on my wife. I never cheated on my girlfriend. I'm happy to have one woman, okay? And what I mean by that is doing all this extra stuff, it doesn't get me another woman. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it for my girlfriends. Most of the women, then they could care less what I do with this sort of thing. What I'm trying to say is that's an overly simplistic thing. We like to rise in the male hierarchy. We like to be good at our job. And a big part of it is for women. It is true, guys don't certainly care. Like, I don't need a fancy car. I don't need a fancy house. Guys will do things to impress women, yeah, sure, but that's a lot more to it than that. Anyways, next quote by Tucker Max. Most of the conventional wisdom is not only wrong, it's a lie told to us by people who want to control us. It doesn't help us, it helps them. Now, I think that is true. There's a lot of things I think that are kind of a joke. Like when somebody says diversity, you think, oh, they mean a variety of people. I don't really think so. I think the word diversity, what it means is big money wants the public divided. It's like the Roman Empire. They would say divide and conquer. If there's two little towns near each other, could get them arguing with each other, they could just conquer the first one and then it'd be easy to conquer the second one. Whereas if the two towns united, they'd be difficult to control. And I think that's what they mean by diversity. With the public divided, it's easy to control all of them and turn them all into chumps and take their money and screw them over. Okay, I think that's what they actually mean. All right. Let's see. Tucker Max continues. The problem with reading is not reading. It's that almost everything out there sucks. And that is true. And that's also why it's a little hard to shop at some of these bookstores. I like to go to the bookstores, but very often they don't have any good books that I haven't already read. Okay, for so long, publishing has been run by a cartel of snobby, pseudo-intellectual, failed writers. And the resulting output has reflected not what the market wants, but what they think people are supposed to read. Yeah, like I would write books for publishing companies. They would force me to take out all the jokes, take out all the abbreviations. You know, they would suck the life out of the book. And then let's say I was writing a textbook of surgery. Every chapter had to be the same number of pages. I'm like, well, this is a fast procedure. This could be done in 2 pages. This is a complex procedure. It needs 20 pages. Nope, they all have to be 4 pages. And you're like, then you have to go along with it. And then what the publishing companies want a lot of times is they want to sell the book not only to English-speaking Americans, but to foreigners. And they're like, well, the foreigners, they're not going to understand English well, so you can't use these complex, nuanced statements and jokes and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, if you just want a generic piece of crap book, then you don't need me to write it. You can get anybody to write a generic piece of crap book. So anyways, that's another reason why I was sort of a little bit disillusioned. And it takes them about a year and a half, at least a year to a year and a half to publish a book. And it's like, that's painful. You can do it so much faster on your own if you know what you're doing. Okay, let's continue with Tucker Max. He says, you want to know who is in power, then pay attention to what you are not allowed to make jokes about. Here's a writing prompt. What is everybody feeling or thinking but unwilling to say? Yeah, that's a good one, like in the nutrition community. To tell you the truth, that olive oil is for chumps, omega-3s are for chumps, that soy is for chumps, that flax is also a joke. Okay? That doesn't make you popular. That coffee is a joke and caffeine is bad for you. Saying all that stuff gets you shadow banned. Okay. And ostracized. All right, so Tucker Max. I started writing because it was about making my friends laugh. Tucker Max. I'm never going to be Tolstoy. Tolstoy is totally overrated, okay? Tolstoy, as Nabokov said, has fundamental accuracy of description and perception. Okay, that's great. But Tolstoy is not able to put meaning into his work. Tolstoy is totally overrated. I agree with Ayn Rand 100%. Tolstoy is a jerk, okay? Tolstoy, look at Anna Karenina. You know, the only way out was suicide. It's like, screw you. He has such a negative attitude. And read about his personal life, what he did to his wife. He was a total ASS, okay? Fyodor Dostoevsky, on the other hand, is magnificent. He's one of the top, all-time great novelists. Him and Victor Hugo and Charles Dickens, Henry Sienkiewicz. Okay, Tucker Max continues. People reading my books want to be entertained. The number one rule for writing is, what is the truth? Okay, now that's a good line. What is the truth? If you're not willing to write the truth, then you probably shouldn't write about whatever it is you're writing about. But sadly, the way you make money is by lying to the pros, selling stuff, promoting stuff. But I think people who do that will benefit in the short run, even for a decade at a time. But in the long run, all they're doing is generic stuff to make money for themselves. In the long run, I think they won't be remembered as highly as they would have hoped because they sold out. Most great writers turn their suffering into art. Okay, well, that's a good thing to do. Journaling can be therapeutic. Great humor is telling the truth that everybody knows and feels but isn't willing to say. Yeah, that's right. So you're going to offend people because, the truth is offensive. It often is the opposite of political correctness. So if you're going to say the truth, people are going to be offended because most people, they're lightweight, low IQ, conformists. So they're going to agree with political correctness. So if you say something that doesn't mesh with that, it's like, who really thinks that men and women are the same? Of course not. Everybody knows their mother's not like their father, their sister's not like their brother, their aunt is not like their uncle. So why should we pretend that men and women are the same? We all know they are not. Okay, talking to my girlfriends is not the same as talking to guy friends. Not at all. Okay, women are way more emotional than men. There's no doubt about it. And physically, they're physically weak, okay? They've got interesting, fun personalities. We like them. We like women more than we like men, and we're men. But they're totally different creatures. Okay, Tucker Max, if you want your story to be interesting, then tell your story honestly. Okay, journaling about your life is proven to have therapeutic benefit. Okay. That almost sounds like my line. Everybody knows that in writing. Okay, now John Maxwell. He wrote a whole bunch of self-help books and leadership books and public speaking books, and he's good. I think he's like a Protestant preacher or something like that. He says, your life begins to change when you change something you do every day. I think there's some truth in that. Like I just started doing Bible stuff, and I'm going to get better at the Bible. Okay, because I decided I'm going to start trying to do that every day if I can work it in the time. The big time-consuming thing is not the Bible. It's trying to find the pictures to go with the stories. That's what takes the time. Nothing is great until a life is changed. But I mean, getting back to that, make a change in your life every day, and you'll have a benefit from it. Like I said, putting a reading table in the toilet, I read a book a week from that. Always listening to an audiobook in the car, I read a book a week from that. So every week, at a minimum, that's 2 books. Every year at a minimum, 52 times 2, it's a minimum of 104 books, plus I read it other times too. Like let's say I'm exercising, walking on a treadmill. I'll be reading a book. All right, let's continue here. Nothing is great until life is changed. People may hear your words, but they feel your attitude. Right, so that's why I like, for example, when I give a YouTube video, I try not to talk about anything unless I'm a little bit interested in it. Preferably a lot interested in it, like something that happened to me recently. Then I can really talk about it. I got tons of good topics to talk about, but I don't feel the energy to do it and do it fast and good unless I am emotionally into it. Okay, John Maxwell, he says, you looked at the salespeople and you internally asked the 3 questions from the chapter. Do you care for me? Can you help me? Can I trust you? Okay, that's what people say when they deal with a salesperson. Yeah, so salesperson, it helps them a lot to be likable and to seem trustworthy. The first rule of communication, says John Maxwell, is to look for common ground. Okay. Talk at me and you will talk alone. Talk to me and I will listen. Talk about me and I will listen for hours. Okay, and here's Lisa Kirk. And I had this quote long before I knew who Charlie was. So this is just some actress from a long time ago. He said, a gossip talks to you about other people. A bore talks about themselves. A brilliant conversationalist talks to you about yourself. Okay, now another quote by Gian Vincenzo Gravina. A bore is a man who deprives you of solitude without providing you with company. Okay. John Maxwell continues now with his quotes. Immature people don't see things from someone else's point of view. Maturity is the ability to see and act on behalf of others. I was trying to get ahead by correcting others when I should have been trying to connect with others. You add value to people when you value them. The best way to help people is to see the best in them. There's some truth in that. Think long and hard about who you are spending most of your time with. For wherever they are headed, so are you. Yeah, kids get in trouble when they hang around with other kids that are into mischief. And if you want to go places in the world, get around people who are good. I got way better at wrestling when I started hanging around the world and Olympic champion Schultz brothers. I got way better at school when I started hanging around with guys who were, got top-notch SATs in the 1400s and were very serious and into school. People rise and fall to meet your expectations for them. The best way a mentor can prepare another leader is to expose him or her to other great people. The secret of successful people lies in their ability to discover their strengths and to organize their life so that those strengths can be applied. Yeah, you have to free up time to do whatever it is that you want to do, and you have to commit to it long term to develop a high level of skill. John Maxwell, nobody ever got ready by waiting. You get ready by starting. Yeah, that's true. You got to go, man. If you want to write a book, just start the book. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a big mess, but you just start, making a mind map, accumulating knowledge in that field, and then write a crappy rough draft and then reshape it. Give talks on it until you're real familiar with the material. That's how you do it. John Maxwell, show your audience members that they are important to you. Express your appreciation. Do something special for them, unique content for them, and letting them know that you have done so. Yeah, I think, that's why I'll try to answer some questions as best I can. I really don't have much time for it, but I try to give good answers when I've got time to do so, and I feel like I'm able to answer the question. There's a Q&A over at VedSource, so if you ever got a question for me, go over there, because then I got more time for that stuff. Normally, I'm just trying to crank out a few answers to questions before I go to work, and I only got 5-10 minutes to do it, and then I got about 5-10 minutes at night, and that's about it. So I go real fast with everything I do because I just don't have the time. I wish I had more time. The first rule of communication is look for common ground. Okay, so that's it for John Maxwell. I hope you found that helpful.